Okay, family. Uh, yes, I'm your soul brother Talib coming at you live. As you know, I'm your co-host from Operation Exodus, Mississippi, Exodus, Operation Exodus, Mississippi. I'm tongue-tied. That's why I just mispronounced it, y'all. But anyway, I just want to say a few things before I close out to go on with the rest of my night. This video, of course, is going to be titled "Why I Must Return to the South." And as you know, in the wake of this brother's book coming out, which I have a copy of, called "The Devil You Know," a a Black Power Manifesto, uh, written by Soul Brother Charles M. Blow. Uh, Now, of course, as we have spoken from the Operation Exodus Mississippi campaign platform, that he may have picked up some ideals from our platform to write this book that he wrote, because it entails a lot similarly to what our Operation Exodus Mississippi campaign platform is about. And it parallels in many ways, along the lines with where we stand at on our platform. Once again, here at Operation Exodus Mississippi. And I must say that, of course, as I am 80-something pages already into the brother's book, which I am closing in on completing with reading, which I'm going to do a book review on once I'm done reading the brother's book. I must say that what he's put in that book, even with the factual statistics that he's included in that book that he's written, in which he has been getting big high reviews for, and of course being accepted on major known Caucasian platforms as well, so that they could interview him about this book he just wrote and published. I like to say that what I'm getting from this brother's book, in fact, is inspiration more to want to now return to the South, because for quite some time, after spending certain periods of my own life as a native born northerner, I had tendencies not to never want to return. But however, in light of what this brother has written in this book, and in light of our platform, where which I speak from, which is Operation Exodus Mississippi, which I am a co-host of as well, I must say that, at this point in time, along with that, I am inspired, inspirationally, to want to return back south. As presently, I'm still living here in the Midwest, although I'm not in the part of the Midwest where I am originally from, which is in the Great Lakes area, which is, which includes my native home of Detroit, Michigan, and but I am of course, in the Great Plains area of the Midwest, which is a part of the Midwest, which I've already made a video about and spoken about on a couple other panels recently, that I would not advise other indigenous black Americans to relocate to. If you feel you got to move out of state and relocate somewhere as far as to another region in the country, I wouldn't recommend this part. And of course, as I always say, you're grown, you have your own independent thinking mind, to go by. But like I said, I wouldn't, recommend this for no other indigenous black Americans. That's all I have as far as that go. But I would say that, I am definitely never, ever, once I am, long as it's every breath of my body, once I am able to return back to the South, I would never return nowhere north, nor to the Midwest, nor to the West Coast, nor to the East Coast, of course, to live. Now, I may visit. I'm not saying I may not visit the other regions of the country I just mentioned, but I definitely don't plan on living in any of these regions anywhere in the United States other than America. Anywhere else, outside the South would be taboo, at this point, as being an indigenous black American, because we're being racially profiled, ostracized, discriminated against, racially just as equally as we would be in the South, especially in the Jim Crow era South, and like the brother Charles Simblow said in his book, that racism is equally distributed all throughout this country, so it wouldn't matter if it's in the South, well as in the North or the East or West Coast, or here in the Midwest. It's equally distributed. And like I said before, the North as well as the Midwest is, as you can see lately in the past few years, has become the hotbed of racial police brutality, like the brother Charles Simblow talks about in this book I just mentioned. And, it's become the hub of also the new era civil rights movement, slashly called Black Lives Matter, and it's a reason for that, because we don't find it no different or no better than where our ancestors had fled during the Great Migration around 100 some years ago, when they were leaving from the Jim Crow South to head north. And to come to find out, it was no different. And as you see, for their later generations, which I'm a part of, as an indigenous black American, descendant of slaves, born in this country, that, is definitely no different now, And I'll be honest with you, because of my experiences or where I've been and where I've even lived in the South in the past, which has been, I would say, about around a couple of decades ago. Although, wait a minute. No, just recently, because Kentucky is considered as the upper South, is up South, not the deep South. I just recently left Kentucky, almost 7 years ago. So yes, I did return back briefly to the South. But however, when I left there, if I was gonna go anywhere, I probably should have went further south at this point. Even now that I reflect on it, where's more predominant black people at than anywhere else in the United States, and I feel like, I made a irrational decision coming further out to this part of the Midwest where I am still currently located at now, and but at the same time I've been, as they say, making it the best of the situation. But however, of course I don't plan on being here too long, at all, and I've been talking about this recently as well, and on a couple of platform panels, and I am, at this point right now, ready to go once that time affords me, and once that opportunity, rather to say, as well, is afforded to me. I got to go. I definitely got to go. I got to return back south for permanently, and from that point on, whether I choose to leave America altogether, that's a whole nother different situation. But honestly, I truly, I have to, get up out of here, because this is too much of a hostile environment. Just being black or brown, and I know what just happened, as of yesterday in Atlanta, Georgia, which is a city I once lived in at once upon a time as a migrant from the north back in the 90s, when you had that great migration from the north to Atlanta. Of course, I was a part of that migration, and but however, I just found out someone had got 8 people, I think it was Asians, had got shot, more than likely by this Caucasian, who was on a shooting rampage. Now, of course, we don't know his background, but it's assumed, of course, that he's probably a Trump supporter, and of course we know the thinking mindset of where them Trump supporters are coming from, and but he was captured and arrested, so let's see how that plays out. Let's see if he's dealt with the consequences of the death penalty like so many black and brown people in that state of Georgia, which is a pro death penalty state, as well as like other southern states such as Texas and so forth on, and let's see, if he gets the same equal consequential treatment and fairness, as they say, of the law, of course. And because of where this took place at, Atlanta, not only was it once known as a popular civil rights city because of the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., who was natively born and raised there, well as he was a Christian Baptist preacher there at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, where I once lived a block away from, and also a city which has a history of known racial unrest as well. So, like someone said, maybe that's why they probably pretty much didn't waste their time in apprehending this alleged murder shooting suspect today. that killed 8 Asian people at 3 different tan spa locations and in the Atlanta area, and but however, like I said, we could look at the racial assaults, the racial police brutality, and the racial police shootings and fatal police shootings, killings of black people, that has been going on in certain parts of the South, like Atlanta and New Orleans, that to this day don't match with the multiple police brutality killings of blacks in northern cities like Chicago, Cleveland, in the Midwest, like in the St. Louis area, in the Ferguson, Missouri area, and also, other shootings, killings of black people, and police brutality killings of black people in the New York City and Baltimore area, I mean, and I'm in the Rochester, New York area as well, and I must also say that, like I said, it don't compare. So, like I said before, moving along, that the North and the Midwest has become the hub of the most racist police brutality and racial injustice and unrest in this nation for the past few years, and this is why you got a new era movement, a new civil rights era movement called Black Lives Matter, as I said before. And this is a clear message to all those fellow indigenous black Americans, whether you're living here in the Midwest, in the far deep Midwest where I'm at, in the Great White Plains, or in the Great Lakes part of the Midwest, or in the North, the Northeast, or on the West Coast, you know what I'm saying? And of course, even in the Northwest part of the United States, like Portland and other major cities up there, like Seattle, and I must say that definitely that it's getting worse, and this is reason why you even find brothers like Charles M. Blow, who was willing to put out a book, where he's getting massive national attention for, which is calling for blacks to, start up a mass return migration to the South, period. Although here at Operation Exodus Mississippi, we're talking about starting a project of taking control of one state at a time, such as Mississippi. But like I said before, once we could be successful with that, then we could move on through the rest of the South, like that brother Charles M. Blow is talking about, and I mean, it's necessary, because that's where our stronghold in population terms is settled at, and we have to take advantage of this politically as well as economically, unless, we want to watch the Caucasian buy all the equity of land in the South, well, we'll just be left with nowhere to go. Really like a people in no man's land, and we don't, at this period of time, as far as our present condition concerned as black Americans, we really don't need that. But I must say that, yes, I must return to the South, because I see that this is not, let alone a healthy environment for a black person that look like me to be in, or dark-skinned person or so, rather to say that look like me, should be in. And it's not a natural environment to raise any indigenous black American children either. We came here, some of us who come into this part of the country, as well as to the north, still think that, we have more of a better, chance of actually dodging, what our people in the South have always known when it comes to being the N-word. And as you see, it's more prevalent here in this part of the country as it is in the South or anywhere else, and we must understand that we're outnumbered. That's the worst thing about it. And this is why I chose to make this video tonight, basically because we are outnumbered in these different regions. We're outnumbered systematically, politically, and of course economically. We have no chance in the world because we are being regentrified. There's a lot of gentrification going on in this part of the country, like it's been for years. There's a lot of gentrification going on in the Northeast, up north. Whether you want to talk about New York City, Washington, D.C., Portland, Oregon, which is on the West Coast, Los Angeles, of course, where a lot of blacks are, fleeing because of gentrification as well, and because of the over high price living, that's driving a lot of so-called black and brown people from out in that part of the West Coast of the country, and which is also ostracizing black people and driving them eastward. And of course, like I said before, we must understand that we have no other place at this point but the South to go to. That's what all these channel directions is sending us into, is to the South. That's the main place that these channel directions is pointing us to, is the South. Basically, it's not pointing us to go to Detroit, Chicago, Gary, Indiana, or Washington, D.C., or Baltimore, or New York City, or Newark, New Jersey, as a matter of fact. It's channeling, these directions is channeling us that go into the direction of the South, because that's our last hope shot as indigenous black Americans in this country. And if you purchase a copy of this brother Charles M. Blow's book, which I advise you to, you will see, as you read through that book, you will see exactly what I mean, even in referencing that brother Charles M. Blow's book that I just mentioned earlier in this video, and but other than that, like I said, we must understand that we have no other option but to leave this country. We have no other option. But to go back south. I keep saying leave this country because I have been making quite a bit of videos about that too. But of course, I'm on the Soul Train. I'm on board with the Soul Train in Mississippi and returning south, which is to take control politically of a state. Then, like I said, we could move on and take control of politically of other states like Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, and so forth but other than that, we have to understand and realize that once we take control of these states, it's about us keeping them. Like someone says, that's going to be the hard part of the job, is keeping that position going to where we can maintain as many safe havens as possibly as we can, starting with Mississippi, where we have a safe haven from the racist mindset of the Caucasian, which, like I said, is more hostile for us in places like here in the Midwest, on the West Coast, on the East Coast, and in the North, we must understand that we must go to a place like the South where we're still the majority. And that is very important. At least, I could go somewhere in Little Rock, Jackson, Mississippi, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Atlanta, Georgia, maybe Augusta, Georgia, Greensboro, North Carolina, and I could walk around in the store and ain't got to worry about constantly being racially profiled because I got more of my people around me. You see what I'm saying? And that is a reality. And you don't hear that. You don't hear too much about that in those places I mentioned. Unless you in New York City, unless you in Baltimore, unless you in Kansas City, unless you in Omaha or here in Lincoln, Nebraska. You know what I'm saying? Or unless you're in Portland, Oregon, or Seattle, or Chicago, or something like that, And that's the reality of what's going on with black people here in America right now, And I must say that, this is the situation, that we have to really pay carefully attention to. If we really want to, rid ourselves by combating this racism that we have to face every day, is that we have to set up sanctuaries, just like they got for these immigrants coming to this country. And by the way, maybe in a couple of days, I may be making a video with me and my co-host of Operation Exodus Mississippi, #1 Soul Brother Angel Snup 7, and Sister Noble, who's also a co-host of our platform, will be probably doing a video about the situation of how other so-called minorities in this country, like the Asians that was killed in Atlanta yesterday, or the Hispanics, or even Africans, and so forth and on, you know what I'm saying, are the N-word, but don't realize it, and maybe hopefully that would start sending a message out to black and brown immigrants in this country that they are just as much racially targeted as we are, as dark-skinned indigenous black Americans who've always been in this country for hundreds of years, and we must, really take this into account, to show that, even though we may be from different cultures, and some of us from different nations, of course, like I said, but in terms of being here in America all together, we're no different in the eyes of this racist Caucasian, when it comes to that. And we have to understand and realize that, and to an extent, I do agree when certain people say that, black and brown people need to start uniting. I do agree. I know and I'm just speaking for myself initially, so I'm not gonna speak for nobody else on this, but to an extent I do agree with that, you know. But however, it's best right now to more so focus important on us as indigenous black Americans, you know, because we're the ones who are in dire need of a sanctuary state, you know, which we could take control of, which would, like I say, you know, protect us from the racial mindset of the racists who's been oppressing us for going on 500 years in this country, you know, and like I said before, you know, we really need to, you know, consider on what we got to do, because we have no other options geographically or regionally wise far as the United States go. The only what I mean is the only geographic part of the United States which is even any kind of hope left for us is the South. Because like I said, we're the most populated down there, you know, in terms of being black Americans. We populate the South more than we populate any other region part of this country. And that is well known fact, statistically and generally, you know. So, I mean, you know, we have to understand that that's our only hope. And we can make a future for ourselves in the South. I mean, you know, of course, you know, we owe that to the ancestors, you know, whose backs this country was built on, starting in the South, where their blood and sweat is ingrained in the soil of that part of the country. And we definitely need, you know, to show our appreciation, you know, that if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't even be here. So, you know, we have to definitely return that favor back by taking control of a couple of them states, starting with Mississippi, like I said before. And this is just, you know, our only option left. And if we don't take this into consideration and put it into action, then in fact, we might as well just simply become exterminated. But we don't have to go that route. All we have to do is just unite on a common accord basis and take that action. And it won't take too many of us to make this, you know, ideal of the Mississippi campaign kickoff. It won't have to take that many of us. Just a few. It don't have to take all 44 plus million of us to make this happen. And we've been telling you this for the last 3 years, by the way, too, you know. So, you know, let's get on board with this soul train. Let's make this happen. That's the only thing I can say about that, you know. And let's stop, you know what I'm saying, procrastinating. If you really with this ideal, and let's pull our resources together on a common collective basis to make this happen. And maybe people like from among us, like our celebrities such as Stevie Wonder, who's planning on moving to Ghana because he can't deal with the racism here in America any longer as an indigenous black American himself. We would hopefully be able to channel their direction, to rechannel their direction into helping us make this a reality. of creating a safe sanctuary for ourselves away from this racist here in America. And it can be done. It can definitely be done. Without a doubt, it could definitely be done. All we got to do is unite together to make this a reality. You know, because as time is going, just like he feel about leaving America altogether, so his grandchildren could be protected from being racially profiled or possibly killed by some racist cop, or possibly being attacked or killed by some other kind of racist in this country, you know. That's the way I feel when it come to me wanting to return back to the South. Because there's definitely no protection for us. Definitely in these other region parts of the country where we're not the majority. And this is one reason why you can see why we're being driven out, whether it's financially or economically. We have no protection. Not even in a lot of these northern cities where there's a big population of us, like Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore. It would seem like we got more protection there, but that's not the case. We're still in, those places are still in states that's, majority Caucasian. You know, and this is another reason why we have to, head back south. You know, and we have to, understand that that's our only hope of survival. You know, it's our only hope of survival. You know, and I mean, I used to kind of, especially when I had that pro-black conscious mindset, I kind of used to, look at our ancestors who migrated from the South to the North back in the 1900s, 1920s, up at least I think until that big mass migration ended in the 1970s somewhere, according to historic accounts, but however, sometimes I used to look down hard on them. It was times where I even looked down a little harder on my biological grandparents who migrated north during that period of time of a critical plight that the indigenous black Americans were going through at that time, and sometimes I still I'm not as hard on them as I used to be, but sometimes it still makes me ask the question as to why you just didn't stay down there, at least like the other blacks did, that was willing to deal with that, and maybe we could have probably had a whole different reality living in the South had many of us not fled the Jim Crow racial terror of white races, even when blacks was at the time trying to fulfill the ideal that we're here at the Operation Exodus, Mississippi, are trying to fulfill. So this is something that did not start with our platform of Operation Exodus, Mississippi, by the way. Our ancestors was already attempting this. And I'm talking about the ones who had to flee the South because of Jim Crow racial terrorism that was plaguing them. But had they stayed there, who knows? We might have not only been controlling a few of them states in the South, starting with Mississippi and Alabama and so forth, but we may have even been to a point by now where we'd have had a whole entire country to ourselves. We'll never know, of course, because we can't go back and change history to find out. But they were attempting that. And we have a better chance in our attempt of making this reality come into fruition, because we have more opportunities and resources, than our ancestors did in that manner, to be able to pull something like that off, So, and this is not to, minimize what our ancestors was attempting to do. And this is why, from this point, we decided, when we first started the proposal of this idea of Operation Exodus Mississippi, to carry on where they left off at. So, like I said before, for our close out, I just want to make this clearly known that, this is the direction we need to be headed into. And with that said, I'm Aldi 5000. Peace.